From President Trump's tariff deadline. At midnight tonight, the Trump administration will impose sweeping new tariffs on the majority of U.S. trading partners. President Trump has already announced frameworks for trade deals with 6 countries and the European Union. Some of those agreements were finalized in just the last week. But even some of our largest trading partners don't have a deal done just yet. The president says he's giving Mexico an extra 90 days to negotiate. The administration is still discussing trade with China. Talks over the weekend in Stockholm ended with no firm agreement. The two sides are considering their own 90-day extension to finalize a deal. And in lieu of a formal deal, the president has signed an executive order to increase tariffs on Canadian imports from 25% to 35% starting at midnight. Earlier at the White House, President Trump said trade talks were still happening just hours ahead of the deadline.
We'll see. But we have made a few deals today that are excellent deals for the country. This is making our country very rich and respected again. 1 year ago, we were a dead country. Now we're the hottest country in the world.
CBS News reporter Erica Brown joins us now. Erica, what's the latest?
Well, Jolene, the White House announcing President Trump signing an executive order increasing tariffs on Canadian goods from 25% to 35% to take effect on Friday, which was the president's tariff deadline for trade partners all around the world to reach new trade agreements with the United States. Now, in this executive order, the White House cites that part of the reason for these increased tariffs are Canada's role, what they claim to be Canada's role in the opioid crisis. Now, this is something that the president for months has claimed that Canada is simply not doing enough to curb the flow of drugs, namely fentanyl and other illicit substances from coming across the northern border. And in this executive order, the White House says that Canada has failed to cooperate in curbing the flow of drugs. And so the president signing this executive order raising that tariff to 35%. Now, the president had previously implemented a 25% tariff on Canadian goods that were not covered by the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Free Trade Agreement. And this tariff will also encompass the same things. But this comes as the president also noted another issue that could threaten trade talks between the U.S. and Canada, and that is Canada's plans to recognize a Palestinian statehood at this year's UN General Assembly in September. Now, the Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said one of the reasons for this announcement was the suffering of Palestinian civilians in the Gaza territory, and this is notably a policy reversal for Canada. And President Trump had previously said that recognizing Palestinian statehood could be seen as rewarding Hamas, and he took to social media in the early morning hours responding to this move by Canada, saying it could undermine trade talks between the two countries. Now, Canada remains one of the U.S.'s largest trading partners, and the trade talks have been ongoing for months, but the Canadian Prime Minister warned that those trade talks could likely continue beyond the president's August 1st deadline. And today, the president signing an executive order implementing a higher 35% tariff on Canadian goods. Jolene.
Erica Brown in Washington, thank you. CBS News Money Watch correspondent Kelly O'Grady joins me now to talk more about this. We have a 90-day extension in the trade negotiations with Mexico. What does that mean for consumers?
So there's going to be no change, right? Because we have seen this 25% fentanyl tariff in place, as well as the auto tariff and the sector tariffs on copper, aluminum, and steel. I will note, though, that these are tariffs on goods that aren't covered under the existing agreement between Canada, Mexico, and the U.S. that was negotiated under President Trump's first term. So, look, this gives them more time to negotiate. You're probably not going to see prices go up on your avocados or anything like that, right? We've still got more time to negotiate. I will flag, though, one country that hasn't been mentioned that I'm really looking out for is Taiwan. They have not come up with an agreement, and we get so much of our semiconductor chips from there. And remember, that reciprocal tariff back in April was going to be 32%. So that's one where I'm keeping my eye on.
Very important trade agreement for sure. Also, we're looking at, small businesses, big businesses. They've been dealing with so many months of uncertainty here, the ups and downs of trying to figure out how to get your goods into the country, how much you're paying for them. Does this deadline has it changed anything? What has it done to the ability for American businesses to plan?
So, look, the fact that we have deals gives them a little bit more certainty, even if that certainty is that the tariffs are going to be higher than they were expecting. But I think what's interesting here is these businesses have been living during this pause with a 10% tariff rate. We've already seen small businesses, you've done a lot of reporting on this, that feel like their backs are up against the wall and that they can't absorb that. So if you think about the tariff rate going higher, that's going to be really difficult for them. Big businesses we have heard from a lot during this company earnings season. I'm talking about the automakers, some of these other companies that have said they've tried to keep prices low and they've taken big hits from these tariffs while they were waiting and seeing what these deals are. Now you're going to have the tariff go up. I am hard pressed to see companies continue to absorb those hits to their profits when they have a fiduciary obligation to their investors.
So we may soon see more prices go up. We'll TBD possibly on that. Yeah. We'll have to wait and see. The personal consumption expenditure, the PCE index, came out today, showed prices rose at an annual rate of 2.6% last month. What did this say about the impact of tariffs and where we are right now?
It shows you that we are seeing prices go up because of tariffs. This is the Fed's preferred gauge on inflation. It was supposed to come in at 2.5. It was hotter than expected, a little bit. Yeah. Look, it's nothing to write home about. This is not 9% like we saw back in the summer of 2022, but we are seeing that elevation. The other thing that stood out to me is spending. People were spending less on autos and auto parts. That, of course, is a sector that has been hit hard by tariffs.
Kelly O'Grady, our Money Watch correspondent, thank you for being here. Appreciate it.